Amy, thank you so much for being here. We've had the pleasure of meeting. Listen to this. I don't know, when you meet someone who you've admired and who, you've looked up to kind of all your life. We've all grown up listening to her music, and you think, what's she going to be like? I have to tell you. Dave said it too. She's everything you'd want her to be, somebody who's so kind and caring, and we've only met for a short time. Thank you.
I sort of feel like we have had such an incredible night. Part of me wants to go, woo, let's go home. Just because the stories already told are incredible. They're really incredible.
Not so fast. We're keeping Amy here, the angelic voice that she has.
Okay.
So listen to this. Tonight we're celebrating 25 years, of course, for Urban Ventures. We've got another anniversary, though. 40 years, Amy, since your first album. You've sold more than 30 million albums, 6 Grammys, 26 Dove Awards, a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And still, when we were chatting earlier, this is what I find so fascinating. You said if you're on a plane, you're sitting next to somebody, they don't recognize you, and they just ask, so what do you do for a living? I find this fascinating, right? It's not like, oh, I've got to walk on the, a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. What do you tell them, Amy?
I'm a songwriter from Nashville. And it's
a songwriter from Nashville.
Yeah.
You've been writing songs for so long. Dave was saying when he was younger in Minneapolis, he saw you with your guitar, with your voice singing. Probably have a new guitar since then, voice still angelic. You're here in Minneapolis. This is so special for all of us. You've been all over the world. Can you share with us what you love? Be honest about Minneapolis. What have you enjoyed? What speaks to you as you're here?
Well, honestly, when I think about Minneapolis, I think about all of the amazing bike trails, because I have for many years traveled by tour bus. It might sound glamorous, but a tour bus we rent, and there are sections of bunk beds inside. And we're stacked 3 on top of each other in our bunks. So 12 bunks down that middle hallway. And I always, in good weather, carry my bike in the bay of the bus. And so no matter what it looks like, you read that list of accomplishments, and my first thought is, ugh, she sounds like an overachiever. I don't even think I like her. And then I go, oh, it's me. God, that doesn't even feel like my life. But I think about the lovely bike trails in Minneapolis, and also my amazing relationship with Target. Because years ago, when I was 7 months pregnant, Target came to me and said, we would love for you to do a Christmas campaign. And anyway, nobody wanted me to do anything at that point, and I said, can you film me like from here up? And anyway, so it was a campaign called Love Makes You Real, all built around the Velveteen Rabbit. And that baby girl that I was carrying at the time is, she'll be 29 in December. And life just keeps going by so fast. It's a mystery to me.
A beautiful mystery. Amy, I think of some of you, I don't know about you guys, but I think of some of my favorite songs of yours. Takes a Little Time, That's What Love Is For, Baby Baby. This morning my husband might have heard me singing some of them, not as good as you, of course. But I'm wondering, as you think of yourself, as a songwriter, and you've given so much to other people, as you travel, you meet so many different people. Who has really touched you? If you can describe a time, maybe we listed all these accomplishments, so it might sound like, oh, everything's just kind of easy. Everything's going great for Amy. What kind of trials have you faced, and who, as you've traveled around and been singing these songs of inspiration, who affected you and how? How did it keep you moving forward?
These questions, by the way, are coming at me. I'm hearing them as you're hearing them, so my brain's going.
We decided we were just going to have a conversation.
Yeah. A couple of things, a couple of thoughts came to mind. I have a cousin who is turning 80 soon, and she was a career school teacher in the public school system in Nashville. but for sections of her younger life, she lived with my mom and dad. And I was a chronic bedwetter. So as a 4, 5, 6-year-old, I would wet my bed and then go to Glenda's bed. And I remember her reading poetry to me in the night. And when you talk about whetting a child's appetite for something and just words and rhythm, bedwetting is, a lot of people have that hardship, but she has been an influencer for me. Both my parents have passed away, and I still call my cousin. And her faith is such a bright light. And I remember, when I was to the age that I was falling in love, and I would say, it just makes me so mad that you don't have, or sad that you never found the right person. And she would always say, now I had a couple of people ask me, but there are a lot worse things than being alone. And she said to be with the wrong person would be even harder. And I don't know, just somebody honestly talking about life. And life is messy, people are messy. The second person that was quite an influence on me was my great aunt. It was my grandmother's youngest sister. She was 17 years younger than my grandmother. So I just called her my Aunt Jean. And she was widowed after 6 weeks with her first husband. He was in a plane crash doing maneuvers for the military over the desert, and went on to marry and had my cousin and her brother. Anyway, her life, part of her rebounding was just struggling to find her footing. She was so funny, a great athlete, but she struggled with substance abuse and really ran from the faith of her family and going to church or anything like that. Well, the first time I ever went to California with my guitar, my great aunt was there. And I played at Hollywood High School. I can't believe anybody showed up. I think I was 17. I was thinking, don't y'all have something better to do? But she wrote me a letter, and she said things about the way that I communicated the love of God made her put her defenses down. And I was just being honest about my own life, my own doubts, my own journey of faith. But it mattered so much to me that this family member was vulnerable with me about her own, her life and her life struggle. So anyway.
You share, I love that, Amy. You talked about that vulnerability. I don't know if you guys know this, but we were talking, I hope it's okay that I share, but you do this fantastic work every summer. This will be the 5th summer on her farm in Nashville. And you talked about that sort of cycle, that cyclical connection of the giving and the taking. I'm wondering, and that we can all grow together, being here tonight for Urban Ventures, hundreds of people could ask you to come join them on any given day of a year. As you think of those connections, that give and the take, how did that, in your own work that you do, any Vince Gill fans, by the way, her husband, Vince Gill, musician, they do a lot of philanthropic work together. Yep, we hear it back there. That belief in that give and the take and that cyclical connection, how does that bring you to Urban Ventures? How has that connection brought you here tonight?
Well, years ago, when I was traveling around the world and experiencing probably the height of my music success, I was also the mother of 2 young children, and went on to be 3. But I remember being so overwhelmed and standing at the coffee pot one day and saying to my mother-in-law, I am so tired. I don't think I've even prayed a succinct prayer. I'm exhausted. And anyway, she said, oh, Amy, it just takes one good prayer. Well, I grew up Church of Christ, which is sort of heavily guilt-laden, and you have to sort of do everything right. And just the thought of one good prayer being enough, I went, please tell me that prayer. And she said, just every day pray this prayer, Lord, lead me today to those I need and to those that need me, and let something I do matter. Let something I do have eternal significance. And she said, and you're never going to know what that is, but just pray that prayer. And so when I'm asked to come sing, I needed to hear those stories tonight. I needed to hear the adventure of Matt and Kim. I needed to hear a couple that had never had kids saying, yes, we will be parents to a teenager. That's brave. That's brave. And it's funny because I got about 4 years ago, it was exactly 4 years ago, we were taking my father for a drive. My dad, who sort of in the wake of my mom's death, his dementia, I think he just missed her so bad he just let go of reality. But we would take him driving on Sundays, and a couple of my sisters and another kind of extended family friend, we were driving, and back when tickets and records were selling great, I had purchased a farm. It was not glamorous, it was very rough, honestly a big power line right through the middle of it. But sometimes a year would go by and I wouldn't go out there, but I just felt like this farm it felt like a pot on the back burner that had something cooking that had gotten shoved to the front burner and the heat had gotten turned up. And I just was going, I can't figure out what this is happening at the farm. What is this? I feel like it's for a greater purpose than for me just to go camp twice a year and wait for the investment to mature. I didn't know. Anyway, so I went driving with my dad in the front seat and 3 women who I love in the back seat. It had been a long time since my dad had said my name. When he talked, it just sounded like tossed salad of words. He was obsessed with the seatbelt, and that's all he did was play with the seatbelt. For 2 hours, we drove around that farm. And one of my sisters said, just start dreaming out loud. And I thought about what Raven said about asking those kids what their dreams are. And I started dreaming out loud in the company of people I know and trust. And it became so emotional. And we're like riding through fields. It's not a huge farm. We just kept circling the same fields, going into the woods where we could, but just circling, going up and down the long driveway. And I said, I want to grow old experiencing community with people that love the land and want to share it, because you don't have to explain God in nature. He's so evident. And I just want this place to be like my 5 loaves and 2 fish. There's so much need in the world, but when that kid was in a crowd of 5,000 and Jesus' followers said, hey, everybody's hungry, he was just young enough to not look at the odds. He was just young enough to not realize how insignificant his individual gift was. And he just walked up and took it up front. And that gift in the hands of Jesus was enough for everybody. And that day driving around, I just kept going, please let this be my gift to you that you gave me. And so I started going, what if we could develop community gardens? What if we could have programming for children? What if we could have bees out here? What if people that were down and out could come and stay here for a while? And I'm not zoned for anything economical out there. I'm not zoned to have a business out there. But I just kept dreaming, tears streaming down my face. And as I'm standing here or sitting here, we got back to the hilltop where Vince and I got married, where my mom's ashes were buried. And one of the women said, I think we should just get out and stand around in the car and pray that you stay out of the way. And I said, that's a great idea. And we gathered up, and my non-sister put her hand through the open window where my dad is still in the front passenger seat, still messing with the seatbelt. And she put her hand right on his chest and said, Doc, I miss my daddy so much. While we pray, I want to have my hand on a dad's chest. And my father turned and looked out the window and said to the circle of women there, this is all going to happen. And we were like, what? And then he said one more thing. He said, and there's going to be great celebration. And the next thing he said was total nonsense. And the week after that, Tommy Rhodes, who founded this camp for kids, told me about his camp that he does on church parking lots. And I said, why don't you use a farm? And he said, we don't have access to a farm. And, you know, we were talking about what we want people to feel leaving here tonight. And my hope for myself every day is to say, how would life be different, not just for me, but for the people I love, and then continuing ripples? What if I really took up the space I was intended to take in the universe? Not what people think, not the list you read, but the soul space. And, you know, and I started trying to picture myself like going, you know, what if we each took up the space, the story that we were intended to take up? And I'm going to tell you, music has been exciting, but I believe the most exciting part of life is ahead. You know, it's like Raven's journey. I didn't have so much hardship or Nube. I didn't have that hardship, but we're all meant to live an adventure.
And you were saying we're all meant to live that adventure, and you were saying for all of us here tonight to even challenge ourselves to sort of think outside of what we would normally think that adventure might be.
And just dream out loud.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love it. Amy Grant saying, lead me to people who I need and who also need me, that connection. You also mentioned to celebrate life. And that's what we're about to do. We're going to celebrate. We're going to hear the angelic voice of Amy Grant.